Dave, West Ham for the top four. What are you saying?
Yeah, obviously it was quite an entertaining game, quite end to end at times. But I mean, I was quite surprised by Leicester's performance. I thought the way they've been of late, it's been a bit travesty really, and an embarrassment for Brendan Rodgers, and some of the performances they've turned in have been abysmal really. And I'm sure he'll be encouraged by the performance, because for me, I think they deserve 3 points. I don't feel West Ham really deserve the draw on the balance of play. There was a bit of controversy over the equaliser as well. We've seen them give him handballs. It's one of those that probably, if it gets given as a handball, it probably doesn't get overturned by VAR and vice versa.
Well, what's your take on that anyway? Because the rule is that it has to come above the part where the shirt is for it to be not handball. Anywhere below the shirt line is a handball. That seemed to be like on the line, didn't it?
Looked, yeah. I mean, marginal, but come on, we can't really discuss this decision, because some of the terrible decisions we've seen this year.
Just start wearing long sleeves. That solves that problem, doesn't it?
It does a bit more, doesn't it?
And again, it's so borderline, this rule that they've brought in, on the t-shirt. It's going to be one of those that's, discussed to death over, the next few years, and for however long it lasts, because it seems they bring new rules in, decide they're no good. Like obviously the handball rule last year, when Lindelof conceded that ridiculous penalty on the first day of the season, and they decided to change the rule to 2 or 3 games. So again, nobody really knows kind of where they're at in terms of these. But
but that's just them trying to add another concrete decision instead of something that's subjective, isn't it? So it's another way that VAR can get some lines out and take 3 minutes to assess, all right, has it hit his t-shirt? That's the only reason they're doing it, to try and take accountability away, because all of a sudden now the referee doesn't have to make a judgment call on it. It's something that you can actually analyse. It's the same with a bit like we'll come to it, I'm sure, but in the Villa-Newcastle game, where they were trying to decide whether it was a penalty or a free kick when Trippier took it. Well, it didn't matter in the end. But if his toe is on the line, is it in the box? Well, all of these things in football come down to these ridiculous measurements that until we had technology, you never would have been able to use. And it does just detract from the game itself. To be honest, I want it as a goal. I don't want rules that are going to come in and take away goals. That's the bit we all like about football, isn't it? We want to be entertained. And I know you obviously have soft spots for Leicester, the two of you, but as a neutral, a last minute or a late goal to equalise for West Ham charging for the top 4, I don't want to see that taken off because it was a millimetre below his sleeve line. It's silly. You're not controlling the ball. That's not handball, is it? It's his shoulder.
It is, but I think regardless of t-shirt lines, etc., if the ball hadn't hit that part of his arm, would it have gone in? No, definitely not. He was heading it down to the ground, so the arm actually changed the trajectory of the ball. So for me, that's influence in play.
I think it's one of those where it just needs to be, it's either handball or it's not, and I think they've made it too complicated again by bringing this t-shirt line business, because at the end of the day, if it hits you on the arm there and it goes in the goal, you've clearly gained an advantage by technically scoring via what's technically a handball, and
it's not a handball. You can't extend your shoulder out to reach out for something. Even if I move my arm out, my shoulder doesn't go anywhere. It's still here. So he's not actually got bigger from it or anything. That's just his body. He's not gesturing towards it and pushing out towards it. It's not a handball. It's his shoulder. That's the argument, isn't it?
They didn't hit him there, though, did it? It's in there. That's his shoulder.
It's a t-shirt.
It scores with the shoulder, then I wouldn't have any arguments. But if it hits you on the arm and goes in goal, I'm sure if you were a Villa, if you're a fan, if that happened against Villa, you'd feel aggrieved by having that goal. I would if I was a United fan.
That's because football's fickle, but because I'm a neutral, this is the only time we actually can analyse it and say, no, I think that should probably stand. Because your t-shirt line doesn't come past that far down your arm where you're going to control the ball with it. If you can start manipulating your arm in that way, Dave, fair play to you. But to me, that's not a handball.
Well, that's the thing. We're arguing about it now. the guys in Stockley Park are there looking at the VAR replays over and over and going, I don't know, is it? Could it be? That's the problem, isn't it, really? Somebody's point of view, but just somewhere else looking at a monitor. It's never
So they've done the right
decisive.
thing then by allowing the goal and just saying, well, we'll stick with the ref's decision then. We won't change it. It's not clear and obvious, clearly. And they talked about that so much, clear and obvious, and it doesn't seem to actually matter because apparently clear and obvious leads nothing. But in this case, it did, thankfully. I think it's fine, isn't it?
Well, Leicester will feel like rightly aggrieved, I think, because I think if that was your team, it's kind of 50-50, isn't it? They'll just want the season to be over now as it is, won't they? Because they've kind of got nothing to play for, I don't think, apart from just trying not to finish on a low. But as for West Ham, that point does still keep them looking at the top four, doesn't it? I mean, you two don't seem to be convinced. If Rice was injured, for example, is that season over for them?
Yeah, or Bowen at the moment. Yeah. Just quickly on Leicester, though, and that decision, I don't think they can feel aggrieved because it was another corner that they've conceded from. Like, it doesn't matter what happens, to be honest. He could have used any part of his body he was going to score because Leicester and their set pieces, I don't know what it is with them. It must be so infuriating for Brendan Rodgers because how many different tactics, what can you do at this point to get that team to sort it out? Like I said, they've conceded 14 goals from set pieces, not including penalties this year. Wolves have conceded 17 altogether. Yeah. That's as many goals as Man City have conceded all season. So if you're genuinely having ambitions for Europe, which I think Leicester would have said at the start of the season that they do, they finished 5th last season and the season before. What are they doing with that? It's appalling how bad they are defensively.
What I'm saying is, Miles, is when United next play Leicester, we're going to score from corner.
No, not a chance. that'll be the confidence boost that Leicester need at the back and how to defend set pieces. But with West, I feel like, Mike, you're waiting for us to go, yeah, come on, West Ham can get top 4 to keep it exciting. And
I'm just playing devil's advocate, mate, that's all.
They definitely can because the quality of some of those players is shining through. Jarrod Bowen looks absolutely fantastic. Declan Rice, there might not be a better midfielder than him in the league right now. I think he's been absolutely fantastic this season. But you're right. An injury to one of those two, and all of a sudden that's dangerous. And I wonder how much they'll fancy their chances in the Europa League, to be honest.
How much longer can those two keep pulling them through?
Yeah, because their results haven't been necessarily the most amazing. If you look at a lot of the results they've got, it's against teams that you'd expect them to beat. And I think they are just benefiting from the fact that United, Tottenham, Arsenal to an extent are pretty woeful at the moment.
It doesn't feel like they're scoring as many goals as they were as well.
Bowen is, but the rest of them aren't. Yeah, you're right.